let's jump right in and talk about eCC and the features provided by it. First, we'll take a look at how eCC is able to print shipping labels with UPS WorldShip. So, in order for eCC to generate shipping labels with UPS, the first thing that's required is that you need to have a UPS account. And the UPS account also needs to be of a certain type. There are two specific types of accounts that UPS provides in order for you to be able to get access to the WorldShip software. Without this type of an account, you won't be actually able to use UPS WorldShip. So you've got to get either a smart pickup account or a daily pickup account. And we've noted some of the prices there, and typically varies anywhere from about $10 to $20 a week for that service. And with that service enabled, you get access to the UPS WorldShip software, which is then the next thing that you'd want to install. Once you have a UPS account and you've installed UPS WorldShip, the way that eCC works is it exchanges XML files between the desktop software eCC and WorldShip. So the exchange of the shipping information and the shipping label and tracking number happens basically behind the scenes between eCC and WorldShip using XML. There's really nothing that you need to do in terms of downloading or uploading XML files. It's very much a point-and-click process, but in terms of behind the scenes, there's an XML file that happens to be exchanged between the two applications. And we'll try to cover a little bit of that in the next few slides. So jumping right into the setup process for UPS WorldShip, for those of you that are familiar with UPS or have used the WorldShip program in the past, in this webinar we'll try and give you an overview of all the shipping carriers, and in subsequent webinars we'll try and cover a lot more details with each particular carrier and also go through some specific demos with generated labels as well. So jumping into the first step of the UPS WorldShip setup process, first and foremost we need to open UPS WorldShip, go to the Import Export Data tab, and click on XML Auto Import. Here, we're going to enable UPS to start accepting UPS XML labels from eCC. So let's take a look at that screen. Once I click on XML Auto Import, I'm taken to the next screen, which looks like this. Here, we're going to browse to find a folder location that is going to be used by UPS WorldShip to exchange XML files with eCC. Now, in most cases, that folder location will be pre-filled for you, and it's usually inside the UPS folder under WSTD under an XML folder. You can also browse to it or manually specify it here. If you don't see an XML folder, you can always create it under the UPS folder and specify that as your default XML Auto Import folder location. Once you've specified the folder location, you pretty much need to hit the Start button. As soon as you hit the Start button, UPS WorldShip will now be ready to start accepting shipping input from eCC. Now keep in mind, once we have set up UPS WorldShip with a particular XML folder location, we also need to now tell eCC what that folder location is. So let's take a look at step number 4, which is to enable UPS WorldShip in eCC. So some of you might have already seen this screen, and it's a part of the eCC profile configuration. We covered a lot of details on the overview of the eCC setup process, so I'm going to try and skip that during this webinar. You're welcome to take a look at some of our past webinar recordings to get to some of these specific details on how do you set up eCC in the profile. But assuming that your profile with eCC is already configured, now we're going to start configuring UPS WorldShip. To do so, we're going to go to the Shipping tab in the Profile Configuration. We will then select the third option here. We'll select the radio button, which is for USPS, UPS WorldShip, and so forth, which then opens up tab number 4, and there's a checkbox there for UPS WorldShip. I'll go ahead and hit that checkbox, and then a button appears for Configure Shipping. I then click on Configure Shipping. So what we've done in these steps 4 and 5 is enable eCC to process shipping labels with UPS WorldShip, and now we're going to go to step 6, which is to configure the details of that shipping process. So step number 6 is to open the dialog box within eCC where you're configuring the shipping labels, and you're going to specify the XML auto import folder location. Now, this is exactly the same folder location that you specified in the UPS WorldShip program. Remember, eCC and UPS are communicating using this XML folder, so it's imperative that this folder location be the exact location between what you've specified in UPS WorldShip and what you've specified in eCC. And if you have any confusion, just go ahead and copy that folder location from WorldShip and paste it into this window. Once you've pasted that information, UPS and eCC are now configured. However, there's one more critical step here which will really help you in processing labels down the road, which is step number 7, and that is to configure the default settings. With configuring default settings, you're able to process shipping labels with eCC with a predefined set of options. So here you can see that I've specified my default settings as next day air, a package type, whether I wish to have delivery confirmation or not, whether it's a residential address or not. I can specify my reference number, 1 and 2 values, the declared value, the default package sizes. I can also select Saturday delivery or pickup, and quantum view notifications. Now what's important here is that once you have specified these default options, this is what will appear by default whenever you generate a shipping label with UPS WorldShip. However, you will notice that you will still be able to change these settings for that particular shipment. But by specifying some defaults, you're able to speed up the process and have all of these settings pre-configured so you can generate shipping labels much faster. Now I see I have a question that's coming up, which is in regards to FedEx shipping labels, and I'll be happy to answer that here shortly as we get to the next step, which it will be talking about shipping labels. And a few hands raised. Please go ahead and enter in your questions on the right side in your GoToMeeting panel, and we'll be happy to answer them in order we receive them. So we covered a little bit about setting up UPS WorldShip, configuring those settings in eCC, and then configuring the default options. We now hit save, and eCC is ready to process shipping labels with UPS WorldShip. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So to process shipping labels, as most of you might have seen with eCC, on the eCC New Orders tab, you see a set of orders, and there's a couple of different ways that you can process your shipping label. You can select the order and click on the Process Shipping button. You can also right-click an order and click on the Process Shipping button. Once I click on Process Shipping for one order, I can also select multiple orders here and generate shipping labels for several of them. But once I click on one order and hit that button, I'm now taken to the pop-up screen, which opens up in eCC, where I specify all the UPS settings. Here, you will notice on the left, it displays the order number, the order date, the order total, and the current shipping status. It gives me the current ship date. It pulls in the weight, and the weight here is a summation of all the weights that were obtained with your online store order. So if you've got all of the weights properly configured in your online store, you'll be able to subsequently add those up here, and it'll automatically appear. Also, it'll display the shipping method that was used by the seller by the buyer, and the buyer's shipping information will be available here. On the right side, you'll see, depending on the particular shipping carrier you've selected, the default options will now be selected for the shipping. You can choose to modify those, add any quantum view options, any additional details you wish to specify, and click on Generate Label with UPS WorldShip. At the click of this button, eCC will send the label over to UPS WorldShip. WorldShip will gather that shipping label, print it out on the configured shipper printer that you have, and the tracking number will be sent back into eCC. It's as simple as that. You click the order, you verify your shipping details, click on Generate Label, and UPS generates the label for you. In terms of step number 4, eCC automatically marks that order as shipped, and the tracking number is received from WorldShip. And as you can see on screen, eCC will update the carrier and the tracking ID, which you can then subsequently post back to your online store to notify your customer. Now, once you've finished processing the shipping labels for all of your orders, you can simply stop the UPS WorldShip XML auto import service. So, quick recap, you configure UPS with the proper XML folder location. You go back into eCC and configure it with the same location. You go to the dashboard, select the order you'd like to ship, click on the Process Shipping Label button. The shipping label is then printed out and is available on your printer, and the tracking number is sent back to eCC. It's really a very simple point-and-click process. Jumping now from UPS WorldShip over to Endicia Dazzle. So Endicia Dazzle is an application that's available for processing shipping labels for USPS. eCC integrates with Endicia Dazzle using one of the Endicia Dazzle accounts that you have set up. So in order to do that with Endicia Dazzle, what you've got to do is sign up for an Endicia premium account. A premium account runs at about $15.95 a month, and to sign up for an account, you can go to endicia.com/webgility. On this page, you'll sign up for an Endicia premium account. Once you receive your login details and access to your account, Endicia provides a software application that's called Dazzle. Endicia Dazzle is then installed on your local desktop where you have eCC also installed. Just like UPS WorldShip, with Endicia Dazzle, eCC exchanges XML files with Dazzle. And Dazzle then prints the labels and sends the tracking number back to eCC. With the help of this integration, you can easily generate USPS shipping labels. And Dazzle is a pretty powerful application that provides you several options in terms of layouts and also international shipping labels. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next steps. So let's take a look at how Endicia Dazzle is set up. Once I have Endicia Dazzle installed, the first step, similar to the UPS WorldShip process, is to enable Endicia Dazzle for XML processing. Under the Endicia Dazzle options screen, you'll see a tab called Premium Service Options. Here, I'm going to check that box to select Monitor this directory for XML files. Again, recall, this is very similar to the process we followed for UPS WorldShip, where we specify the XML folder location, and eCC uses that XML folder location to basically pull the shipping label details. I see there's a question here in regards to UPS, which is, does eCC update the cart with the UPS tracking number? The answer is yes. eCC does update the shopping cart with the UPS tracking number. Once you have generated the shipping label with eCC and the tracking number is recorded with the order, when you click on Post to Store, the order gets posted back to the online store and the tracking number is saved with that particular order. If you've done any shipping customizations with your online store, feel free to reach out to our support team and we can take a look at if there are any questions about that integration. I have another question here, which is in regards to Endicia Dazzle. Does the customer shipping address get retained through eCC? At the moment, eCC records the shipping details directly into Dazzle, so you can certainly look through your Endicia Dazzle log and look at the shipping label that was generated. We're adding some functionality with our Endicia integration where you will also be able to add the details over into the customer's, into your address book that is available within Dazzle. At the moment, the shipping details are placed in Dazzle, and Dazzle essentially maintains a log of all the labels that were generated. Hopefully that addresses some of those questions. I'll get back onto the setup screens for Endicia Dazzle. As we were discussing under the premium service options, you're going to monitor the XML directory. Again, please note what that XML directory is. And under the every 10 seconds checkbox, usually this is set to 30 seconds by default. What we recommend is setting it somewhere around the 5 to 10 seconds mark. What this is telling Endicia Dazzle is to specify the time interval during which eCC and Dazzle will exchange information between the two applications. I'd like to keep it usually around 5 to 10 seconds. Once you've set up your premium service options, you've set up the Monitor XML directory, you hit OK, and now Dazzle is ready to accept XML files at that particular location. So just like UPS WorldShip, we're going to go back into eCC now and configure eCC for Endicia Dazzle. So under the Shipping tab, I'm going to check that box to enable Endicia Dazzle. And now, once I've enabled Dazzle, a window pops up that asks me for all the configuration details. As you can see on the right, the first thing I need to specify is the Dazzle installation location. Typically, Endicia Dazzle is installed under the Program Files, Envelope Manager, and Dazzle folder. And that's the folder where your Dazzle application is running from. You can simply verify that by looking at your Dazzle configuration. The second folder we need to specify is the XML folder location. This is going to be identical to the folder location we provided in the previous step. Now keep in mind, with the latest editions of Dazzle and Windows 7, the XML folder location is stored under the public folder, under the public documents, Endicia, Dazzle, XML. That's typically the folder location. And if you don't see an XML folder there, I'd recommend you go ahead and create an XML folder, and you can use that to be the communication folder between eCC and Dazzle. The third folder location we need to specify is the layout file folder location. This is the folder location that is used by Endicia Dazzle to specify the layout file for your shipping label. The moment you specify the proper layout folder, again, this is typically the public documents Endicia Dazzle folder, just one level above the XML folder. Once you specify that, you will notice at the bottom of the screen on the layout panel, there'll be a drop-down which will get populated with these .lyt or layout files that eCC is able to read from Endicia Dazzle. Here again, once we specify the configuration, I also have the default settings for every shipment. These are the settings that will appear for all of the initial shipments, and you can again change them when generating the actual shipping label. So taking a look at what these default settings are, again, you can specify the shipping method, the confirmation type, days to advance, a package type, your standard dimensions, insurance, whether you wish to print in test mode, you'd like eCC to automatically send the custom form printing, stealth postage, or if it's oversized. Please ensure that your Dazzle folder locations are accurate, you're able to see a layout file, and select these defaults before moving to the next step. Once you've got that set up, we're now ready to generate the shipping label. So let's take a look at what that looks like. The first step, like always, is to click on the Process Shipping button in your New Orders tab. Once you have processed the shipping label, at that point, it will bring up the Process Shipping button, the screen here, and you'll see here now the tab displays Endicia Dazzle. My predefined settings are filled out. I can make any changes I wish to make and click on the Generate USPS Label with Endicia. The moment I click on the Generate USPS Label with Endicia, Endicia Dazzle will open up, it'll print out the label, and subsequently you'll close Endicia Dazzle as your step number 3. As soon as you close Endicia Dazzle after the label has been printed, the tracking number is sent back to eCC and the order is marked ship. A couple of quick notes. Make sure your label folders are accurately pointing to the right location. And second, as soon as the shipping label is generated, don't forget to close Endicia Dazzle so that the tracking number gets sent back to eCC. Also, if you're just getting started with label printing in eCC, we'd recommend doing a few test prints before you start getting charged for the labels. You can always do that by clicking on the Test Mode button here. Next, we'll take a look at generating shipping labels with Stamps.com. Now, there's a little bit of a difference in our integration with Stamps.com as compared with the two other processors we talked about. With Stamps.com, eCC connects directly with your Stamps.com online account. So the first thing we need to do, again, is to sign up for a Stamps.com account. Here, you sign up by going to stamps.com/Webgility. For a standard account, starts at about $15.99 a month. The way it works is that eCC sends the shipping details to the Stamps.com servers. Stamps.com then sends the shipping label back to eCC along with the tracking number. So let's take a look at how that setup process looks like. First, I'm going to enable Stamps.com and provide login information. Now, unlike our integration with UPS or Endicia Dazzle, here you're not specifying an XML folder location. You're simply connecting eCC to your Stamps.com account. So first, we're going to provide the username and the password and specify a location where eCC can save your shipping labels. Once you've generated your shipping labels location here, you can select the box to enable international shipping labels if you like, and you can specify additional settings such as the service type, the package type, the confirmation, the default printer, and so forth. Again, we're specifying default options so that these can be used to generate shipping labels by default, and we can always customize this going forward. Now, once we have Stamps.com set up and the folder has been configured, let's click on the Process Shipping Label button, and you'll notice another tab comes up in your Process Shipping screen with Stamps.com details. The process of generating a label with Stamps.com is a little different. Here, first, we need to click on the Get Rates button to get the rate for the particular service type that we want to generate. Once we have the rates appear under the Select Service window. You can then select your options and click on the Generate Label with Stamps.com. Once the label has been generated, the Print button gets activated on the right, and the label can now be printed. Remember, the shipping label is saved in a folder, so you can always go back and reprint the label. But what we do recommend, once you've printed your labels, to periodically go back and delete out all of your old labels from there. To recap, you sign up for our Stamps.com account. You then go into your settings to enable the account, process a shipping label, get the rates, and print out the label. So we've covered UPS WorldShip, Endicia Dazzle, and Stamps.com. I'll take a look at some of the questions we have here. One, is there any additional information on UPS WorldShip? Absolutely. We have some additional videos on our website that cover our integration with UPS WorldShip, and we'll also be having subsequent webinars to handle some of those details and go through an actual demo of the application and generate some sample labels. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to our sales team at sales@webgility.com, or if you're an existing customer, as always, feel free to contact our support department at support@webgility.com. I have another question that says, can eCC validate the shipping address? The answer, unfortunately, at this point is no. We are actually working on a feature with eCC where we'll be able to do address validation across all of our shipping carriers. And a general note, across all the integrations we provide, we have a pretty active development lifecycle, and we're working actively on getting several new feature enhancements to the entire shipping process. We'll be making changes to our UPS integration, our integration with FedEx, and with Endicia Dazzle, we'll be adding a lot more service options. Another question I have is in regards to packing slips. I'll table that question if you don't mind, and I'll get to it as we cover the packing slip section of our presentation. The other questions are, I see a couple more regarding FedEx, and I'll be happy to cover those as well as we talk about FedEx. So coming to the topic of FedEx, currently eCC's integration for FedEx shipping labels is through the QuickBooks Shipping Manager. Now, the QuickBooks Shipping Manager is a free shipping application that is available within QuickBooks, and it can be used to generate shipping labels for UPS or for FedEx. Typically, a lot of our customers that use FedEx today will use QuickBooks Shipping Manager and our integration with that. So the way that it works, since the shipping is generated from within QuickBooks, the first step is that eCC posts the order into QuickBooks. Now, as the second step, you generate the label from within QuickBooks. Once the label is generated, the tracking number gets pasted into the invoice or the sales receipt in QuickBooks. Once the tracking number is generated, eCC has a button called Retrieve Tracking ID, which will pull the tracking number from within your QuickBooks company file. So the process is a little reverse of our standard process of first generating the label and then placing the order into QuickBooks. Here, we first generate the label from within QuickBooks and then retrieve the tracking ID from there. So the first step is to post the order into QuickBooks. Let's take a look at how that works. So first, let's enable FedEx in QuickBooks. Under the File menu, you'll see a shipping option, and under Shipping, you'll see FedEx Shipping and a Settings button. Under the Settings screen, I can select it to go ahead and configure my account with FedEx. Now, with FedEx, you get an account number and a company shipping address, and you must agree to the terms and conditions that are provided within the application. Once you have that set up, we now go over to eCC and we enable QuickBooks Shipping Manager. Just like we did with all the other shipping carriers, there's an option here for QB Shipping Manager. I check that box and we'll move forward to the next step. Now, in terms of processing the shipping labels, the first step is to post the eCC order to QuickBooks. Once the order is posted in QuickBooks, I can go to the invoice and click on the Shipping button. When I click on the Shipping button, a window appears as you see on the screen. This window will pre-fill all the address details, the shipping service, and the package details. What's going to be primarily missing is the weight, because as you know, in QuickBooks Pro Premier Editions, weights are not available for the product. So, once I've generated this pop-up for the QuickBooks Shipping Manager, and eCC has pre-filled all the address details, I can verify the weight, and I click on the green shipping button, and the shipping label is now generated within QuickBooks Shipping Manager. Once the shipping label is generated, you'll see a shipping confirmation screen appear. On the shipping confirmation screen, there's a checkbox here that says Paste to Form. This is the most important step of generating a shipping label with QuickBooks Shipping Manager. Once you've generated the label, it's important that this checkbox be selected, because now once you select this checkbox and hit the Close button, the tracking number details are then pasted into the invoice or the sales receipt as a line item. As you can see from the screenshot below, I've shipped this order with FedEx, and a particular tracking number gets generated. FedEx tracking number :111. This is the really important text that eCC looks for in order to grab the tracking number. And for tracking number details, once we've got QuickBooks Shipping Manager generating the right tracking number and a particular format, this is going to be the format that will appear for all the labels. So we'll go back into eCC now, and we're going to make sure under the Configure Shipping for FedEx, we're going to make sure that the FedEx matching text is identical to the matching text that's generated within my QuickBooks Shipping Manager. Back to screen, previous step 6, the FedEx tracking number gets displayed. You copy and paste that, go over to eCC, and under the FedEx matching text, put in the right matching text. Now that the text corresponds exactly and matches up, eCC will be able to pull the right tracking number from QuickBooks into the particular order and mark the order shipped. I have a question here about what about USPS? How can we ship using USPS? For USPS, basically, we covered the two previous options, which is Endicia, Dazzle, or Stamps.com. Those are the two providers that support USPS labels, and you can refer back to a recording of the webinar if you need any more details on that. But USPS labels can be generated with Endicia or with Stamps.com. So now that we've matched up the text, pretty much you'll see on the eCC dashboard a screen with the button Retrieve Tracking ID. I can click on the Retrieve Tracking ID and the order will get marked shipped and the tracking number will get generated. So quick recap, we configured QuickBooks Shipping Manager with FedEx. We then generated a label after posting the order into QuickBooks. QuickBooks invoice now had the pasted tracking number. We made sure that the text was matched up correctly, and I pulled in the tracking number. Some quick tips in regards to FedEx shipping with QuickBooks Shipping Manager. You only have to configure the matching text once. So please make sure that you've got the matching text right the first time, and then for subsequent steps, you'll simply be able to click on the Retrieve Tracking ID button without having to enter that matching text every time. Also, posting to QuickBooks and retrieving the tracking ID from QuickBooks can be automated with the scheduler. So you can easily substitute the several steps we took in the previous process by simply using the scheduler to post and grab information from QuickBooks. Also, FedEx Web Services shipping integration is currently in development. So very soon you'll see integration where eCC will be able to generate FedEx shipping labels directly from within the application without having to use QuickBooks Shipping Manager. For everyone that's using Shipping Manager today and using FedEx, this is a pretty good tip for how to use QuickBooks Shipping Manager. Coming back into the presentation, talking a little bit more about the manual shipping process. So although eCC supports a number of shipping carriers, there are cases when you're generating shipping labels for a lot of our customers that have eCC set up internationally. In Canada, I see we have some users actually join us from Australia as well. For those geographies, eCC currently does not have direct integrations with the shipping carriers. You'll be happy to know that we will. These are all the developments in our roadmap. But at the moment, if you're using a shipping carrier that eCC does not support, but you would still like to use eCC's functionality in order to generate the tracking number back to your online store, you can use the manual processing option. For the manual processing option, you can either select the button for manual processing, or you can right-click an order, and as you see on the screen, a menu pops up on the New Orders tab. You can click on Manual Processing. Once you've clicked on Manual Processing, a pop-up window appears, which allows you to select the carrier, the method, and the tracking number along with the ship date, and you can click on Update Order. Once you've clicked on Manual Shipment, you'll be able to record that tracking number into the order with eCC, and eCC will then mark the order shipped so that the tracking number can then be sent back to your online store. Now that we've covered all the shipping options, let's jump right in to the packing slips. Packing slips are fairly common use across all of our customer base, irrespective of which shipping carrier you use, and it's become one of the very highly requested features in terms of customization. So there are a number of options and enhancements that we've added over the past couple of releases, and I'll talk a little bit more also about what's coming up in our next release, which has quite a few enhancements to packing slips. So talking about the features that we currently provide with our packing slips, first, we provide the option so that you can add your own logo, and you can have your own standard footer at the bottom of the page. Also, if you get a lot of orders that have many, many items, and you would like to add only specific items per page, you can also repeat your particular header across the page. Also, the question about display options that came up earlier. For the packing slip, you have several different options of what are the fields that get displayed on the packing slip. So currently, at a packing slip order level, you can choose to display the order notes, the customer comments, the shipping method, the QuickBooks transaction ID, which could be the invoice or the sales receipt ID. You can show price details or hide them, and you can hide discounts and taxes if their values are 0. Also, for the particular column of the packing slip, you can choose to hide or display the quantity, price, amount, and weights. So those are the options that are currently available for packing slips. To give you a little bit of an idea of what's coming up in the pipeline, we're going to be providing some page setting options. I see a question here in regards to different packing list sizes. The packing list sizes are basically the options that are going to be available in our next release, which is currently scheduled for next week. And in the next release, you will have a completely new packing slip module where you'll be able to specify the exact page size that you use. You'll also be able to specify the margins on that page and specify the default printer that is used for your packing slips. And there's also some enhancements to the way that our packing slips are actually generated. So if you use a smaller page or a larger page size, it'll automatically shrink the font sizes to get the exact dimensions right. So definitely check out our next release for enhancements to the packing slip if you're looking for some of those enhancements. I have another question here specifically in regards to packing slips, which is, are the customer comments equal to the gift message? Now, the answer there is unfortunately no. The customer comments are typically a standard comments field that are available in most shopping carts at the point of checkout. And those are the comments that are available for the customer, and they vary from cart to cart. The gift message is typically an additional field that appears if you have a specific gift certificate module or a gift packaging module enabled in your cart. If you need some specific help in regards to the gift message, please reach out to our support team and we can take a look at if you have any specific customization requirements for the gift message. I have another question in regards to upgrades. Is there an extra charge for new updates? The answer is yes and no. If you are on our free trial, or if you're a customer on an active support plan with us, and we do provide 30 days of free support with the purchase of a license. So within those 30 days, if you're using eCC and we come out with an upgrade, you'll get that upgrade for free. If you need an upgrade beyond that, we do provide paid purchase options for individual upgrades. Or the best solution really, which most of our customers will use, is our annual support plan. With the annual support plan, you get unlimited support and we provide free upgrades throughout the duration of the support plan. I have another question here in regards to packing slip for special characters. Typically eCC is able to handle a lot of special characters, but if there's a particular character that you're having a problem with, if it's Cyrillic or something related to your particular geography or special character type, please reach out to our support team and we can provide any enhancements or fixes as part of your support plan. So we've talked a little bit about packing slip, and the way to print the packing slip is pretty simple. You go to the eCC dashboard, or you double-click on an order, and you'll see this little printer icon on the top right corner. You can click that button, and eCC will print out the particular packing slip. I have another question here. How do we handle international shipments? I kind of covered that briefly in a couple of the slides past, but to quickly recap, we do cover international shipping with Endicia Dazzle at the moment, and you can enable that as an option in the Endicia Dazzle settings. And we'll be adding international support for UPS, and we will also have international support for FedEx when we come out with that release. Currently, of course, the integration with QuickBooks Shipping Manager, as you know, only handles domestic shipping labels, so we're very much aware of some of those limitations, and we will be addressing a lot of those enhancements in the next couple of releases. I just received some very interesting feedback regarding the webinar. I appreciate the positive feedback. Thank you very much. Another question I have is in regards to our integration for Canada. Canada Post. Currently we don't integrate with Canada Post. We are working with the Canada Post team on what are the integration options there, and we'll definitely be providing integrations with that hopefully within the next couple of quarters. International customers, we've got a lot of features on our roadmap for international, and also I see another question from Australia here. And yes, the same answer, unfortunately, for Australia Post. We are working on getting integration done with Australia Post, and you should be seeing that. For Australia Post in the next few releases. Another feedback or question here: anything new for USPS? Absolutely. Our integration with Endicia Dazzle, we're going to be doing a lot of enhancements to that in the next few releases. And it's a great segue into my next slide, which talks about our shipping label integration with Endicia Dazzle. For all those of you that ship with Endicia Dazzle, we're going to be doing a joint webinar with the Endicia team on September the 23rd at 2 p.m. That's the tentative date and time. We'll be confirming that with the team here, and the registration link for that webinar will be coming up very soon. But please look out for that and definitely sign up for that webinar. We'll have representatives from the Endicia Dazzle team also available to answer all of your questions, and we'll also talk about some of the enhancements that are coming up on our roadmap as it relates to Endicia Dazzle. So that about wraps up our webinar for the day. I see a few more questions, and I know we've run out of time here, but I'll be happy to address those questions as a follow-up. Our organizers here, Brenda and Dan, have all of your questions, and we'll follow up individually with you to address those. As always, thank you very much for your time, and we really do appreciate your business, and we really hope that eCC is the right product for you. And there's a lot of things that we have going on in our development cycle, but would love to get more of your feedback, and we'd love to add more and more features to the product so we can serve all of your needs in terms of shipping and QuickBooks integration. So thanks, everyone. Hope you have a wonderful day, and we look forward to seeing you in our future webinars.